We all know that one of the side effects from the pandemic is a red-hot housing market, not just in Toronto, but across the whole country. And it could be a good or bad thing depending on whether you see it as an opportunity or you see it yourself as a victim. The Toronto housing market has been cooling for 3 consecutive months, but both the numbers of sales and the average prices are still at historic highs. Today, we are going to look at a very specific segment of the market, and that's the luxury segment. Toronto and Vancouver are the most famous for luxury real estate, and we are going to compare the data breakdown between the two cities. Let me show you the data first, then I'm going to analyze the logical reasons and the emotional reasons why luxury real estate is on fire because of the pandemic. Number 1, single-family homes. These are mostly detached houses, and we will start with the $10 million plus category. We are going to compare the number of properties sold in the first half of 2020 versus the first half of 2021. In the city of Toronto, 6 homes above $10 million were sold in the first half of 2020 compared to 8 homes sold in 2021. In Vancouver, only 3 homes above $10 million were sold in 2020. Then the number jumps to 16 homes in 2021. Keep in mind that the number of sales tanked big time in April and May 2020 when the pandemic first started. So the 2020 number we see here should probably be around 30% higher. The jump might have been 400% instead of 433%. That being said, the exact number doesn't really affect the big picture here. The trend is the key thing that we need to understand. You will see what I mean as we move along. Let's check out the $4 million category. In Toronto, 215 homes were sold above $4 million in the first half of 2021. That's a 199% increase from the first half of 2020. In Vancouver, 209 homes were sold in 2021, and that's a 152% increase from 2020. You see, when we were in the ultra luxurious $10 million plus category, the sales volume in Vancouver was double that of Toronto. 16 sales compared to 8. But when we get to this $4 million plus category, the sales volumes were pretty much on par for the two cities. Next is the $2 million to $4 million category. 1,381 homes were sold in Toronto in 2021. That's a 139% increase from 2020. In Vancouver, 705 homes sold in 2021, a 112% increase from 2020. See that difference in sales volume between Toronto and Vancouver when we lowered the price. Now Toronto is doubled that of Vancouver. It will be even more obvious when we get to the next category, the $1 million to $2 million category. This was a luxury category 10 years ago, but nowadays it is more of a commodity category. An average detached house would be over $1 million. See how fast money depreciated in just 10 years. With $1.5 million, you could enjoy a very luxurious house back then. Now it is just enough to buy a very average house. In Toronto, almost 4,000 homes in the $1 to $2 million range were sold in 2021. That's a 192% increase from 2020. In Vancouver, only 750 homes were sold in 2021, a 69% increase from 2020. This chart clearly shows the difference in housing demand between the two cities. The sales volume in Toronto is 5 times higher than in Vancouver. Vancouver has always been the most famous city in Canada for expensive real estate. Over the past 10 years, prices in Toronto have gone up at a much faster rate than Vancouver because of the housing demand driven by population growth. And the price gap between the two cities continue to shrink. Vancouver is really a nice city, especially for retirement. But when it comes to job opportunities, Toronto is an obvious win. Job opportunity is a major underlying factor for population growth, which in turn drives housing market. And we are just talking about the city of Toronto. If we expand to the whole Greater Toronto area, the sales volume is much bigger. So the GTA is definitely a national leader in luxury real estate sales. Now, let's check out the data for number 2, the condominium. In the $10 million plus category, there was one penthouse unit in a boutique condo in Rosedale sold for $11.6 million in April this year. None in Vancouver. So let's move on to the $4 million plus category. 13 condo units above $4 million were sold in Toronto in the first half of 2021, a 63% increase from 2020. 19 units in Vancouver in 2021, a 138% increase from 2020. The $2 million to $4 million category, that's still ultra luxurious for condos. 110 units were sold in Toronto in 2021, an 80% increase from 2020. 88 units were sold in Vancouver in 2021, an 87% increase from 2020. Next is the $1 million to $2 million category. At this point, I would still consider this as a luxury category for condos, although I can foresee this becoming a commodity category in the next 5 to 10 years. Nowadays, an average 2-bedroom condo in a prime Toronto downtown area, say Bay and Wellesley, is already above $1 million. So in the first half of 2021, 1,191 condo units were sold in Toronto. That's a 109% increase from 2020. In Vancouver, 721 units were sold in 2021, a 118% increase from 2020. The sales volume in Toronto was just 1.65 times more than Vancouver because we are still in a luxury category for condos. When we get to commodity category for condos, which is under $1 million, the sales volume in Toronto was about 3 times more than in Vancouver. Here's the thing, we can clearly see that luxury real estate is booming in both cities. There are many reasons why, and we can group that into 2 categories. Number 1, the logical reasons. These reasons are all based on numbers. The Bank of Canada reported the first quarter GDP growth at a robust 5.6% and recently revised the GDP forecast. The blue dotted line was the GDP projection from January, and the red dotted line is the upgraded forecast. With the deep V recovery, our GDP is expected to recover to more or less the pre-pandemic level this year. And it is projected to keep growing to well above the pre-pandemic level and beyond to 2023. Of course, the ultra-low interest rates and extra savings are logical reasons as well. We have already talked about those numerous times already, so I won't elaborate on these again. Number 2, the emotional reasons. This is where things get interesting. The buyers who are purchasing these luxury real estates are not average buyers. They are affluent buyers. These buyers are wealthy individuals with high net worth, and they just want the best. They buy based on feelings and emotions. Because of the pandemic, they need to spend a lot more time at home, and the perceived value of the living space suddenly increased. The perceived value is the key here. Let me give you an example. A brand name t-shirt can cost 10 times more than a no-name t-shirt. If you try to justify the price difference with logic, it wouldn't make much sense. But there are people who would happily pay 10 times more. They might like the look of the t-shirt, the feel of the material, or simply the status of wearing the brand name. You see, they pay because of their perceived value of the t-shirt. That's the same thing with a luxury home during the pandemic. They are stuck at home, and so the perceived value of a home increases. They have the money, and so their willingness to pay also increases. They don't mind paying more to make themselves happy. So you got the logical reasons and the emotional reasons, and the result is a red-hot real estate market. With such strong real estate sales driving the market, it is very hard to see prices come down. I foresee prices continue to trend upward. Here is the thing. Have you dined out at restaurants since the reopening? Did you notice that things got a lot more expensive? My friend who manages a restaurant told me today that they are going to raise the price of their menu again for the third time since the pandemic. Cash depreciation is definitely happening. If you don't put your money into assets, you are putting yourself in a very dangerous position. If you believe in real estate, you can schedule a call with me at the link below. Subscribe and hit the bell so you are always on top of the market.